This is Voice of Islam Radio, coming to you live from the blessed grounds of Hadeeqatul Mahdi, the home of Jalsa Salana, the annual convention of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in the UK. Join us for spiritual reflections, inspiring speeches, and the true spirit of peace and unity. Stay with us for a live Jalsa coverage all day long.
Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to IAAAE at Voice of Islam Radio. I'm your host, Nayab Sayed. Now today we begin a journey into one of the most important humanitarian challenges facing our world, and this is in relation to the access to safe and reliable water. Now our program today is titled Engineering Water Security Beyond the Borehole, Building Water Systems at Last. Now to start off with, I'll just quote from the Holy Quran reminds us of the central importance of water. In chapter 21, verse 30, Allah Almighty states, "And we made from water every living thing." A very simple but very powerful reminder. Now, every person, animal, plant, and communities all depend upon water. And I guess here, as the engineer in me is tempted to add, water is also becoming increasingly important to many of the technologies that surround us in this day and age, from, all the way from industry and commerce to manufacturing, all the way through to artificial intelligence and data centers. But hey, I think we'll save that discussion for another day. Now, we need to drink water to cook, wash, grow food. Schools need water, hospitals need water, farms, businesses and entire communities depend upon it. But for many of us here in the developed world, clean water is simply available at the turn of a tap. Yet, for millions of people, finding enough safe water remains a daily struggle. Some people in many parts of the world may walk many miles to collect it. Some will depend on rivers. Some will collect water from ponds or shallow wells that may not be safe. Others, who are slightly more fortunate, may have a borehole or hand pump in their village, but very often we find that it's stopped working and there's no one nearby who can repair it. So today we're hoping to explore not only how water systems are built, but how can they be made to last and durable. Now we'll look, as part of this, at the engineering, innovation, compassion and human effort behind these projects. Most importantly, we will look at the lives and the communities that can be transformed when safe water becomes available. Now, to help me explore this subject, I'm absolutely delighted and pleased to welcome my dear friend and longtime colleague, Tahir Ajmal, who serves as the chairman of the International Association of Ahmadiyya Architects and Engineers, IAAAE, and he looks after the Water for Life Committee. Tahir and I have had privilege of working together on many projects over the years. Now, we've both seen the challenges on the ground, the work involved in delivering the project, and more importantly, the difference that access to water can make. Assalamu alaikum and peace be upon you, Tahir, and welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam, Nayab Saab, and peace be upon to all our audience and listeners.
Tahir, let's begin by introducing Water for Life, so IAAAE's Water for Life Committee, to our listeners and audience who may be hearing about it for the first time. So, in your own sort of brief, concise words, what is the purpose of the program and what kind of work does it carry out?
I'll start with a short selection of verse from Holy Quran. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Wa yut'imuna at-ta'ama ala hubbihi miskinan wa yatiman wa asira. Innama nut'imukum liwajhillah la nuridu minkum jaza'an wa la shakura. These are verses 9 and 10 of Surah Dahr. The English translation is as follows: "And they feed for love of him, the poor, the orphan, and the prisoner, saying, we feed you for Allah's pleasure only. We desire no reward, no thanks from you." So, in light of these verses, His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, the fifth head of our community, may Allah be his helper, has time and again reminded us that all of our charitable works must be and for the love and pleasure of Allah only. It is love of Allah that we desire and absolutely nothing else. We must not differentiate between beneficiaries for any reason. So IAAA, in the spirit of this instruction of Holy Quran, and the head of the community have set up multiple projects in Africa, and Water for Life is one of them, which we are focusing today. Water, as we know, is necessary for the existence of life and its growth. We work in communities across Africa, in East Africa, in West Africa. There are different challenges in both regions. West Africa being sub-Saharan region with very dry land and desert situations, whereas East Africa tend to have a lot of rainfall and green areas. And we have right solutions for both regions. That involve repairing of existing water points, installing new water points, and installing solar water pumps and systems, and working with local communities for hygiene and development of their cleaning culture.
So quite a wide and varied setup by the sounds of things, and also depending on different parts of the world, the climatic and environmental backdrops are quite different as well, right?
Yes, absolutely. Africa is a large continent and has all weathers conditions, rainy seasons and very dry seasons. So the different solutions are required for different challenges we experience there.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tahir. Now, what I've always found very powerful about IAAA's Water for Life program is that it brings together not only professional knowledge, but that distinct, sincere desire to serve humanity. Now, some people look at it and say, okay, they're just simply engineering problems, but behind every hand pump or solar water pump, water storage tank, and water tap, you'll see stories of either a family, a child, a school, and in many cases entire villages or communities. That's something really, really potent to think into. Now, we're looking at the element of security, water security. Now, when people hear the words water scarcity, often, I guess a lot of it may be to do with some of the adverts that we see on TV, etc. The picture that is conjured up may be one of a completely dry area where no water exists. But the reality is actually more often complicated. Water may be present underground, for example, in the aquifers, which is the natural storage elements, pockets of storage created under the ground where water resides. But there may be no safe way to reach it. You may alternatively have a river close by, but the water within it may be polluted. Now, as we've both seen regularly during our visits, a village may have a hand pump and a borehole, but it may have been broken for months or even years. Now, water may be available, like we've just talked about, the different climatic conditions as well. It may be available during the rainy season because the ground is highly saturated, but as we get into the drier seasons throughout the year, you may find that it becomes extremely difficult to find during that season. So, though, from our experience through Water for Life, what would you say are the main water problems faced by the communities and beneficiaries that we support? And also, perhaps, maybe you could also share one practical example that helps to bring these challenges to life for the viewers.
As we discussed earlier, different regions, different challenges. One fact remains that it's not that Africa does not have water. There are tropical regions where there is a lot of rain almost half of the year or sometimes 9 months of the year, but there is extreme dry weather for the remaining months of the year. Or in other places where there is too much rain, it creates puddles and which drive growth of pathogens and malaria viruses. So our objective is to allow people access to the water. One example is that Sahara Desert itself has a large storage of water underground, and how can we tap that water storage for the benefit of people? In terms of practical consequence of lack of access to water means that sometimes, or most of the times, people have to travel long journeys, which could be from a few miles to tens of miles to collect water. and all that water has to be carried usually on the heads, and it does not help that particular job resides with mostly children to start with, and then young girls is the next step, and the women actually. So they happen to be the biggest beneficiaries if we can help them access to water close to their homes. So contaminated sources of water is the next biggest issue. I was in Democratic Republic of Congo last year, where there is a village which is on top of a hill, but they have a water fountain downhill, which is about a mile away. But that because the water, the way it collects there, it creates contaminated sources. The other challenge that happened is broken water points. So I'll probably refer back to the very start of our Water for Life journey in 2003 by His Holiness, may Allah be his helper. He instructed us that there are tens of thousands of water points in Africa which are no longer working. So if we start our works by fixing those points, that is the most cost-effective and efficient way of helping people. He reminded us that people who have had water once, and if it's taken away, it is very painful. Like if we have a service, if our tap water from the toilets and kitchens stop today, we will panic. So
it's like giving a child some candy or a chocolate and then pulling it back away from them, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's, if somebody has never seen a candy, they haven't experienced it. But once they have access to it, especially if it's in their hands and pulling it away, we can all experience it. So another challenge we face is the lack of the repair and maintenance skills in those places. A lot of the systems that were installed, they were by international NGOs using, I would say, almost alien technologies to local people. So they had, if a water pump broke down, they did not know what to do with it. So that's another aspect I'll refer later on in our talk today, how we solve that issue. And another example was a village in Sene in south of Burkina Faso, where it so happened that you and I visited together. This village was also on top of a hill. They had a borehole which was about 110 meter deep, but the water table was so low, 60 meter deep, that their hand pump was struggling to pull that water out. And so we did some work on it, which will come back to the solutions section in a bit of time.
Amazing. I guess that really, just these few simple examples really show us how quickly a technical problem can actually become a human problem. Now, whether it's a damaged seal at the bottom of the pump, or a broken pipe, or a failed pump, it may sound like a small engineering fault, but in reality, for a family, it can be, reverting back to walking for hours, missing school, having no choice to use unsafe water again. So I think the importance of that is quite unique. And I think we both know, when we see for the first time when water is brought back to a pump that may have not been working for years, the excitement, the relief, the empathy that you see, and the gratitude you see something a little bit more deeper than that. These are some of those events where you've really got to be on the ground to experience this. People gaining back their time, improving their health, and recovering, a greater sense of dignity. These are not small things which we all tend to take for granted. Okay, so now the phrase at the center of our program's theme today, which is beyond the borehole. Now, a new borehole, and for our listeners, a borehole is the underground bore that is dug into the ground through which water is raised. And the drilling can be complicated. Pump may be installed, or water begins to flow. It's a wonderful moment, but as we both know, Tahir, it's not the end of the story. In many ways, this is only just the beginning. Now, the real test is whether the system is still working, let's say 1 year, 5 years, or even 10 years down the road. So before that critical element of drilling begins, there's got to be careful planning, where we need to understand the community, the number of people that require the water, the local ground conditions, how far or how deep is the water. More importantly, is the water safe enough to drink? So now a small village may be well served by a hand pump, and larger communities may need to have a powered pump, storage tank, and several taps. A school or health clinics, their requirements once again may be different. So from your perspective, what do you feel are the most important things that we need to understand before selecting and installing a water system?
The biggest challenge is to communicate with the people, the beneficiaries, and try and understand their problems. It's in our commercial world we talk about customer first. So in this case, those communities and people are customers, so as to say. And if we understand what their demands and I would say their needs and requirements are and the problems they face, that helps us provide the optimum solution to their challenges. So to select a particular system, we need to understand how many people are in the local, in the village or in the town we are looking to install a project. And then we need to find a suitable location, which is technical in nature, do a ground survey or geological survey, and also do a survey of the village and where is the best location to install a water tower, for example, for distribution of water. Then we have to check the water quality of the other sources, the existing sources that are available. And then once we understand the water resource in full detail, we can find the best solution for them, whether it should be a hand pump or a solar water pump. And then finally, we need to plan for maintenance from start. So we try to use local resources where possible and train villagers so that they can look after the system themselves.
So I think that last point, which you talked about, which is the maintenance aspect, that's probably the especially important. Now, as we all know, the most expensive or advanced systems in the world are not always the best systems based on where you're actually putting them in. So here, we bring it right the way back to good engineering means finding the right solution for the right place. So I guess we've got some particular elements in there which are going to be critical, such as it must be safe, it must be reliable and suitable for the number of people that are going to be using it, which puts a smile on my face, because I remember so many times we've gone out just to do a survey, and once people know that there's a village or water or facilities that are being put in there, even before we've left the village, suddenly the population numbers have cranked up by about 20-30%, and that continues to go. So I guess one of the most important questions therefore then is not just simply can we build it. I guess it'll be more like, can the community continue to use it and maintain it? So that's really the difference between installing equipment versus creating a lasting water service, which brings me on to this next element of our show here, which is about engineering, innovation, and water for life. So let's look at briefly some of the practical solutions. Now, many listeners will be familiar with the traditional water hand pump. You go up there and you crank it up, the bucket in front, and off you go. But however, now with solar powered systems becoming more and increasingly important, the basic idea is simple, where we have solar panels which provide energy to a pump. The pump lifts the water up from the ground, and in many cases we'll put it into a large storage tank at the top of a tower, from where gravity can then help carry that water through pipes into taps that are placed more conveniently close to things. Now, this can be useful where there's no reliable electricity supply and where fuel is expensive or difficult to explain, as we see the world over at the moment. But solar doesn't mean that the system can simply be installed and forgotten. The panels and all the elements around it must all be properly designed and maintained. So when we're looking at installing a solar solution for a community rather than a hand pump, what is the how do you decide how a community needs a hand pump or a solar powered system, or perhaps the repair of an existing water point?
Our projects start by speaking to the community and analyzing their requirements first. So if there is capacity to rehabilitate an existing water source, that tends to be most cost effective and a quicker solution. However, as you mentioned earlier, that the communities grow rapidly if the water source is available in a particular area or locality or village. So we assess the potential increase in size of village, for example. And then the second challenge arises, as I referred to Sene a short while ago. That village was on top of a hill where water table was about 60 meters during wet season, and as we pumped water out, the water table dropped below 60 meters. What it meant was that somebody in the morning would start using a hand pump, and they'll get water, and after a few hours of use, they will not get water for the rest of the day. Until the reservoir recovers. So our solution for that particular installation was to use a solar-powered water system, which can pump water from 90 meters depth at a sustainable rate, approximately 1.3 to 1.8 meter cube an hour, and try to run it 24 hours. So that's a technical reason to install a solar-powered pump. Another one is number of users in a village. So if hand pump can only generate about 500 liter per hour, and if the population has grown or expected to grow, we need to increase the water capacity.
So the throughput of how much water you can actually get through and deliver.
Yes, exactly. And so there are further technical reasons, like if that one water resource is not enough, then we may need to carry out a geological survey and try to find another aquifer. And then when we have water which we can pump with solar energy, then we need to decide about water storage, so that water is available at night. So solar pump can only run during the day. So all of this needs a cost versus benefit analysis and working closely with the community. And we try to use locally sourced parts. In the past, when we started working, it wasn't easy to find local materials, especially solar-related or modern technologies. It's much more accessible now in Africa. So and we get involved local villagers to train in the installation process, so they can look after the system themselves.
So a lot of moving pieces and a lot more points to actually consider and think about, which is going to directly impact the thing. So I guess recapping for this first part of our show today, I guess the first one is there is no one glove fits all solution. So no single solution is going to work everywhere, and that's going to be down to the fact that every community is different, and also recognizing the value of repairing what may already exist. Like you were talking about, we have hand pumps there which could just simply be refurbished and brought into use, which are adequate for that particular thing. So I guess that's proper inspection and repair that can bring water back to the community much more quickly and at a lower cost than from starting from scratch again. So that, I guess, is also good engineering. So the success of a project is not only measured on the day that it opens, but it's measured about the years of service and the value of the benefit and the continuity of water, I guess, which is providing afterwards. So those of our listeners who've just joined us, you're listening to IAAAE, the International Association of Ahmadi Architects and Engineers, at Voice of Islam Radio. And we are now going to head into a short break. Please stay with us and we'll be right back.
Muhammadur Rasulullah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah. Ya qalbi yadhkur Ahmada, Ayna al-huda mufni al-ida, Barran kareeman محسنا ظهر العطايا والجدا يا قلبي يذكر أحمدا عين الهدى مفني العدا برا كريما محسنا بحر العطايا والجدا محمد Rasulullah, Rasulullah.
Welcome back. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the Voice of Islam Radio. I am Nayab Sayed and I'm joined here by Tahir Ajmal, Chairman of IAAAE's Water for Life Committee. Now, before the break, we looked at the reality of water scarcity and the importance of good planning and the role of engineering and how it provides practical and reliable solutions. So now in this second part, we're going to be discussing engineering water security beyond the borehole, building water systems that last. Now, before the break, we obviously looked at the practical side of water projects, but water is not really only an engineering issue. It affects every part of community life. Now, without safe water, illnesses can spread, families struggle to keep food, homes and clothing clean, schools, health clinics can't provide the conditions that children and patients need. Water also has a major impact on time. So really, I guess in some communities, people may spend several hours each day collecting it. Very often, this responsibility falls upon the women and the children of the family. So for this part of the show, we're going to look at the human aspects and the human impact that the lack of water can create. So Tahir, briefly as an opener, why don't you give us what your understanding is in terms of what changes we have seen on our journeys when safe and reliable water is brought closer to your community?
Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon to all our audience and listeners. So as we mentioned earlier, when there is no water resource available, like of a hand pump or a solar water system, then the local communities have to walk long distances. It would be a good situation if they could access a hand pump in a different village, which only costs a bit of time and effort. But in many cases, they end up walking to some ponds and puddles, natural rainwater storage, which is accessed by animals during the same time. And it doesn't take long to find photos and videos online of this taking place. So the first beneficiary is the health and hygiene standards of a village if they have access to water from a hand pump, for example, which is relatively a secure water source underground, less likely to be contaminated by animal dung, for example. The next beneficiary is again the same community, which is time. So all that distance that they have to walk, or if they are lucky, cycle, is saved now because they can access water within their local village, and children can have then time to go to school, or women can have time to work in their fields more. I keep on mentioning women and children. It is the reality of African life, where women and children tend to be working most of the time, whether it's collection of water or any other aspect of life. And they have then time to support, as I said, farming or food production or looking after animals, which then triggers the whole economic cycle. It energizes that, and it uplifts the community. But there is another aspect of this which I experienced in a village called Farako in Mali, where when we installed solar powered water system and some solar lights, we had a community meeting afterwards, and some of the village ladies said that they wanted to speak about it, and they said that no, it's all this project that you have done in our village. It has only helped us in ladies, and two things they mentioned, and I think the first one is eye-opening, that they said that because we have water now available close to our houses, our children, especially our girls, do not have to walk away from homes during night or even during the day, and they feel secure. And I felt humbled to hear that there is an aspect of access to water which we tend to not understand or miss. The other aspect of, we do some lighting works with our waterworks as well, and that they said that when we do have to go out at night, again a reality of African life, because of, for example, the toilet facilities may not be in homes, they're not attached toilets, then we have lighting and we won't fall in a ditch, for example. Especially our elderly ladies won't trip off something and fall themselves, and again it humbled us and rest of the team that our little efforts brought some major changes in the lives of the people.
They tend to go a lot where, I mean, so one of the points that I was thinking about as you're talking about the children and the youth and the women carrying, and I mean, when we go out there, you typically see they've got these 20-litre jerry cans, and you know most of them will be carrying 2 at a bare minimum, sometimes even 3. Now, bearing in mind that 1 kilo of or 1 litre of water equals 1 kilogram in weight. So you got 40 to 60 kilograms of water being lugged for several kilometers in many cases in dry and harsh conditions. It really drive home the truth, I guess. And then going back to that time element, in some cases we've seen that it can occupy as much as 3 to 6 hours a day, just that daily routine of going out and getting that daily requirement for water. So it really drives it home. So I guess freeing up that time where children are able to start getting involved in education, lives can be improved. When children are spending no longer hours collecting water, they've got more time to study and grow themselves. But going back to it, more of the health project, you're supporting women and families, and truly remarkable in terms of the impact that it can create. Okay, so now I just want to touch back again on on that human aspect that we were talking about. We're jokingly talking about it's like giving somebody water and taking candy away from them, giving them the taste of what it tastes like. Before they didn't know what candy tasted like, and then suddenly you've given. So I guess the correct words I'm trying to look for, it's almost the cruelty that you would create if you created a solution for them, and then that has to break down. So it's double trouble, right? From that perspective. So every system needs attention. In terms of your management, and how does Water for Life involve and prepare the local people and their expectations, so that the systems can continue working after the main project team is left?
So as an engineer, you should always focus on your end user. So we discussed earlier choice of solution for a community. Our first objective is to choose the simplest possible solution with the materials that are locally available and technical expertise that is either locally available or we train local villagers or someone in the community who can look after the system. But it's not always possible. So like I mentioned, Sene, where water was too deep and it needed a much more complex solar water system. So we start by involving the chiefs of the village, whether it's political chiefs or religious chiefs, and involve, get everybody in the community center and have a meeting and explain them what their current water resource is, and what's our assessment of their requirements, and what would be our project or solution to help them.
So getting that buy-in and understanding their needs to make sure that the right solution is proposed?
Absolutely, yeah. Start with that, and if the solution is a bit more complex, involve them so they understand the benefits they will see or get from the solution. And then we would work with local technicians. Our engineer would make sure that they involve people from the village to start with, and if that's not possible, from the nearest town. Resource and select materials which are locally available, which are cost effective, and they can be replaced in the future. And then we set up a committee within the village, decided by the villagers, and appoint someone responsible who will inform us or one of our representative in the country if the system breaks down. And then we would endeavor to help them if and that were to happen. In our experience, as we mentioned earlier, we're switching more from hand pumps towards solar water pumps as the technology becomes cheaper and more readily available. In our experience, that is a much more reliable solution going forward, because the spare parts are more readily available, and yeah.
So it's not just a solution, so the skills around giving them a little bit of independence for them to sort of stand up on their own 2 feet, and also manage those systems in the event that something goes wrong is a key part of what you play.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's almost like there's an element of education and skills development going on into the mix.
Yeah, it's. I mean, there is again a human examples where we work with somebody called Yao in Burkina Faso. He worked with us for many years, trained with doing water systems, and he's set up a business for himself now, and he helps us for our projects at his cost prices, for example. And you know, in an electrical world, we have people in Sierra Leone, for example. I've worked in a couple of projects, and the rest of our IAAA engineers who is now installed solar systems for the government of Sierra Leone.
Wonderful.
And they help us if we need anything. They come and help us because of, you know, they understand and appreciate the support and training we provided them.
So truly helping to change lives in more ways than one, just indirectly and indirectly.
Yeah, it's, you know, the training of local population indirectly, as you said, in this case, and in other projects like MITC, we're providing direct training as well. That is one of the pillars of IAAA objectives.
Superb. So that's a pretty remarkable story, and I guess that brings to the point where we can say that the projects have an element of sustainability that are being built into it.
Yes, yeah,
intentionally.
It's you know, a lot of there is another aspect. The people, the donors, they normally donate a pump or a water point.
Yeah.
And we have separate projects for maintenance. So you know, we would call for our donors to appreciate.
Wonderful. Now, I want to touch a little bit upon service and volunteering. Now, let's also recognise the people behind not only Water for Life, but IAAAE as a whole. So the International Association of Ahmadi Architects and Engineers brings together many individuals, engineers, architects, technical specialists, project managers, and volunteers who are all, you know, devoting their time, professional skills to serve communities, often in very difficult conditions. We've both had the privilege of seeing this commitment firsthand. For me, I guess one of the most powerful parts of the work is seeing that professional knowledge being used directly in serving humanity. Now, engineering is often connected with, you know, when you talk about engineering to somebody, okay, what do you know about engineering, or what do you think engineering is? Often, you know, it'll be connected with the thoughts of large buildings, machinery, or major infrastructure. But at its heart, engineering is about solving human problems. It means looking at a need, actually making sure the need is what the actual need is and not what we think the need is, and asking, how can we use our knowledge to make life safer, healthier, and more dignified? So Tahir, people don't necessarily have to be water specialists to contribute, right? Now, what types of skills are needed, and what would you say to someone who wants to help out but does not know where to begin?
The biggest skill somebody needs is to have the courage to help, is to have that motivation and desire to look beyond yourself and look at your fellow human beings as part of you, as you know, all these children or women as your own children and as your own brothers and sisters and mothers, and that drives the next stage. And everything else builds on that. Once you have a desire to help, then the means are created. Us being, you know, our belief is that the means comes from Allah the Almighty. So in terms of our skills, the direct skills, we are looking at engineering skills, so water engineering, electrical engineering, but most importantly, project management and administration skills, communication skills, and being able to present the work they do. And as I mentioned, desire to volunteer and help other engineers to come forward and help.
I think that's really important, because not every listener will be an engineer. Some people maybe are able to offer professional skills, some may be able to help or organise, raise awareness, others may support a project financially, or even through their prayers, which is a vital part which we believe in the success of our projects. So people should not underestimate the value of their knowledge, time, or willingness to help. Even small contributions go a very long way for something that transforms that thing. So now, as we come towards the end of our journey today, we've covered quite a bit in terms of the looking at the human reality of water scarcity. We've looked at the role of engineering, innovation and planning, talked a little bit about boreholes, talked about the value and the impact of how lives are actually changed. And I guess ultimately we've seen firsthand it gives communities greater dignity, independence and hope. And the Holy, I'll recap again, that the Holy Quran reminds us, and we made from water every living thing. Water connects every one of us. Those of us who have safe water available each day should never take that blessing for granted. We should always remember those for whom, finding water still remains a daily struggle. So, Tara, before we close, could you leave our listeners with one final thought, which, why should providing safe and lasting access to potable water matter to all of us?
We are driven by the instruction of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih and the Allah, where it says we serve for the pleasure of Allah only. This particular motto has energized our IAAA volunteers to bravely face challenges, whether these be of technical or administrative nature, through firm belief, sacrifice, prayer and perseverance. While we put in our best efforts, we never forget that the ultimate objective is the pleasure of Allah, and that's what motivates us.
Thank you very much for that. So, as I said, I've been your host today, Nayab Saeed, and my guest has been my dear friend and colleague, Tahir Ajmal, Chairman of IAAA's Water for Life. You can learn more about IAAA's projects, volunteer opportunities and humanitarian mission by visiting IAAAE.org. And on that note, it is the commemoration of 10 years of the Voice of Islam, where, it's allowed us to take everything out to more than 10 million people across 13 cities in the UK. And the collaboration of taking something like IAAA, which is often called the world's best kept secret, out to the world and to share these stories. We thank you, our audience, to the Voice of Islam.
Thank you very much.
Peace be upon you all.
Peace be upon you.
والجدا يا قلبي اذكر أحمدا عين الهدى مفني العدا برا كريما محسنا بحر العطايا والجدا محمد 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 رسول الله رسول الله رسول الله محمد رسول الله يا رب صل على نبيك دائما في هذه الدنيا وباس يا رب صل على نبيك دائما في هذه الدنيا وبعث ثاني محمد 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 رسول الله رسول الله رسول الله محمد